Hello, welcome back, and thank you for tuning in here today. Whether you're a longtime student of this course or you're brand new to it, or even if you're not familiar with it at all and you happen to click this video, which is no happenstance at all, no coincidence at all, welcome. These videos about the study and practice of A Course in Miracles are for everybody. The course is a self-study curriculum, and it's universal in theme and application, meaning anyone can do it, regardless of background. It makes no difference where you live in the world or what your religious or spiritual background is, if anything. And it makes absolutely no difference what you're exploring or practicing or checking out or into right now. This message that you're watching right now is absolutely no coincidence at all. So, welcome. This course says a lot. I, I mean, you'll have noticed that when bound together as a book, it's big and thick. And if you have a hardbound edition, heavy. I mean, really, there's a lot being said here, but in truth, it is the repetition, different sections, different verbiage for a different day. It's the repetition of a handful of very simple ideas. And of course, as adult learners, we have to have that repetition because of our own stubbornness, really, our own resistance to truth, which is extraordinary. And it's why this conversation appears to be happening and why we all appear to be here engaged in it. Well, we need it. We have a choice in the present moment right now as to which teacher we follow. The Holy Spirit, or Jesus, or call it whatever you want to call it, or the ego. The ego is this belief in an individual self, separate from other individual selves, and separate from God. Just separation after separation after separation. This is the choice that we have in the present moment and we get to make in the present moment. Get is the operative verb here. It's the Holy Spirit or the ego, light or dark. That's one way of looking at it. Love or fear, God or the ego. Truth or illusion. So, whatever combination of words occurs to you, this is the choice that we make in the present moment. It's very simple because we have one choice and two options only. It's simple, and that's why it's repeated, because we have a tendency, a proclivity, a conditioning, and, shall we say, indoctrination to avoid the obvious, overlook it completely, and complicate our lives, thinking that it cannot possibly at all be as simple as it appears here. One choice between exactly two options, One leads to the experience of joy and happiness, the other constant pain. We may have some pleasurable experiences in there, but they don't last. And then, boom, we're back to where we were before, frustrated, confused, upset, anxious, angry, depressed, and afraid. There are plenty of adjectives that we just heaped in there. There are many more that we've invented too. You get what we're saying. So it's this choice that we make in the present moment. And the introduction of reason, as the Course puts it, into our thought system is the beginning of the undoing of the ego's thought system of separation, of judgment, of condemnation, of continuing to keep us in this hamster wheel style loop where we don't experience lasting peace. I mean, granted, we may have beautiful moments in there, and perhaps you're experiencing a string of them. Perhaps you have a lot of money in this lifetime. Perhaps you love what you do for work, and you legitimately love that. Perhaps you're in a loving marriage or a beautiful partnership. Perhaps you have children and grandchildren and a really cute dog that you love. I mean, there are all kinds of beautiful experiences. Not a single one of those is lasting, which we all know, yet choose not to recognize. There's that. So this course comes in and stresses the obvious. The function of reason, the function of looking at our experience with the Holy Spirit, choosing the Holy Spirit as our guide rather than the ego, who keeps getting us lost. Choosing the Holy Spirit as our guide is the beginning of the undoing of the ego's thought system. And the function of reason here is to make plain or obvious. That's its function. So when we watch a broadcast such as this, or we see another video about A Course in Miracles, or we read one of the many excellent commentaries about the Course, or we pick up the book and read it itself, highly recommended, of course. I mean, you can look at it online as well. But whenever we do that, we run into these ideas over and over again. The function of the repetition is to make it obvious. This is the function of reason, so that we begin to accept the sheer simplicity of truth, so that we begin to accept truth just as it is, without trying to make it something else, without trying to order it and manipulate it and complicate it as we do in life, as we run around here doing our thing. So the continuance, the very continuance of the ego, of suffering, of guilt, pain, frustration, rage, damnation, condemnation, and judgment, blame, and fear, the continuation of all of that is completely predicated on the belief that you cannot learn this course. The ego would like you to believe that this course is complicated, that it is impossible to learn, and that you cannot do it. Oh, but you can, and you know that you can. After all, you're here watching this. That should be proof enough. That's pretty conclusive amidst all of the content. Think about it. Amidst all of the content that exists right here on this very social media platform, YouTube, much less the entire internet, of all of the information, of all of the videos and commentaries that you have access to here in the 21st century of this wild, weird illusion that we call linear time, subject for another day, you have access to this and you're watching it. That's proof enough that you can learn this course. We all can. And what it requires is that we continue to come back to the simplicity of it, that when we catch ourselves judging and indulging in condemnation and that sort of behavior, we notice and we return our awareness to the practice of true forgiveness. We return our awareness to looking at things with Jesus, with the Holy Spirit, choosing the Holy Spirit, our inner teacher, as our guide. The Holy Spirit I often refer to as our inner teacher because it's part of us. It's part of our mind. So we return to it every time that we become carried off and distracted, and we notice that we are. And of course, we all go through plenty of days, and sometimes it seems like weeks, years, months, decades, where we don't notice. But eventually, when you do, you bring your awareness back. That's the point. If it sounds like a meditation practice, it certainly is. I mean, this is what one way you could think of this is taking it off the cushion. If you're a yoga practitioner, this is taking your yoga practice off the mat. Notice when you're watching your life with the ego and switch to the Holy Spirit. Rather than judge, forgive. Rather than condemn, extend love. That's taking it off the mat. That's taking it off the cushion. So your entire spiritual practice could very easily be seen as a living, breathing, waking meditation practice. You could certainly see it that way. So reason is not salvation itself, but it induces a peaceful state of mind where salvation can be given. So you're on the path. And this peaceful state of mind is very important to us. Because number one, if we're experiencing peace and calm, certainty, tranquility, we're not chaotic and frantic because the two cannot coexist. And we can't be chaotic and frantic and peaceful at the same time. So when you choose the Holy Spirit instead of the ego, when you choose truth instead of illusion, this is what happens. The more you do it. Again, hence the repetition. And I get it. We're saying the same things over and over again. And there are these attitudes floating around popular culture wherever you live in the world that this is so yesterday. Yeah, I saw that last week. Well, did you apply it last week? Maybe you did. And if you did, excellent. That's the point. You know if you did or didn't, right? That attitude doesn't really help us here because we have the present moment right now. That's when we exercise this power of decision. And it's very powerful. The ego doesn't see. It can't see things as they are because it focuses only on the outward form. It focuses on the outward appearance. of everything. We tell ourselves that we're looking out and we're seeing with the body's eyes, and they stop at form, or they stop at the outward appearance, like the way someone looks or the clothes that they're wearing, and we form instant judgments such as, well, that person is really good looking. And that's right. Or that person, oh, they're having a bad hair day or ugly top or something like that, right? We stop when we're looking with the ego at the form. We don't go beyond that with the body's eyes. We don't go beyond that with the ego. That is not vision. Vision is when we see with the Holy Spirit, when we choose to watch our lives and look at it, all of it, with the Holy Spirit. We then go beyond the form to the meaning, to the content. In other words, rather than looking at our brother as a physical body with beautiful clothes or ugly clothes or tall, short, man, woman, whatever, rather than seeing that, we look past that to who he or she really is, to the essence of it, to the meaning. The ego stops at the outward form and judges it. It cannot see meaning. It doesn't look at it. And that's all the Holy Spirit sees and looks at, goes right past the outward form. So it's not the outward form that matters. In fact, all outward form is an error in perception, and errors call for correction. They can be corrected. When we accept what the Course refers to as atonement for ourselves, we are accepting this correction. This correction is from the Holy Spirit, who will correct our perception, how we see things. We don't see ourselves as we really are. We see ourselves as a physical body, which we're really not. And we all know this deep down. So we don't see other people, what we call other people, our brother, as he is, and we don't see them as they are, really, because we stop at the outward form and form all of our judgments and run off and do our thing. Error calls for correction, and it can be corrected. The ego is an error, which can be corrected. Let's accept the correction of our inner teacher. The ego, again, wants you to believe wholeheartedly that you cannot learn this course, yet you can. We all can. And the ego would have you see all of this form as dark and impenetrable, like a big granite wall that you cannot pass. This course being this big, complicated morass of words and stuff. Well, let's simplify it. That's the point. It is, in fact, quite simple. Again, it's the simplicity that we're apt to overlook. We're most apt to do that in the world. So, when the ego sees everything as a giant obstacle, as a big granite wall that's impenetrable, the Holy Spirit looks right past it. Why? Because the granite wall is in error. It's outward form. The form doesn't matter. The content matters, the meaning, the essence, who we really are. That matters. So we're invited to see that. And I hope that you join me. So thank you very much for tuning in here. Again, whether you've watched hundreds of these videos or this is the first, something has been said here that you were meant to hear, and you know what that is. So ask your inner teacher, the Holy Spirit, who's all of our inner teacher, singular, what to do with that. And I invite you to join us here again for the next video. This is the subscription prompt here. That icon in the corner of your screen, go ahead and click that, and you'll be invited to join us. Now, we have several conversations each week here. It's an international community, and I welcome your questions. They're more than welcome here. So if you have a question, something about this course or spirituality in general, if you ask it, you'll benefit the entire community because there are people on the other side of the world whom you're highly unlikely to ever meet in person that may have the exact same question. So they're really, really helpful. They're helpful to you. They're helpful to all of us, in fact. So I do invite those. And the comment thread right here is a great place to do that. Also, if you just want to pop in and say hello, I'd be happy to hear from you. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you again very soon.